Hello, everyone. It's Alex here, and welcome to another episode of Virtual Chats. And today on the show, we have the great pleasure of having a guy that really needs no introduction, but I'll provide one anyway. You know this guy from, of course, you know him from his time in Lamb of God, but he has also played with Megadeth, Protest the Hero, and his current project, Firstborne. Please welcome Chris Adler. So, Chris,
Hey.
before we get going, I just have to get this out of the way real quick. And I apologize if I'm getting all fanboy off the bat, but you've been I've been a big fan of yours ever since I was in high school in the late 2000s. I've seen you with Lamb of God a bunch of times, and as a drummer myself, you've been a major influence on me on my playing and still are. And I just want to say thank you for everything, and it's a great pleasure to have you on the show today.
Man, that's awesome to hear. Thank you very much for that. I'm flattered.
Very. And I've also gotten to also meet you a couple times at in-store signings in the past. And I've in those in-store signings, I got to like have little small like conversations, but due to time constraints, with people in line, couldn't like have a full one. But glad we have the opportunity to have like a bit of a proper conversation now. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for reaching out. And yeah, happy to do it.
Awesome. So, how do you deal with the compliments from fans?
It's not something that I, feel like I need or I go around looking for. If somebody has, the initiative and the feeling to say something like that, I take it as it's meant, and that's a personal compliment, and I kind of share in that moment with them. So it's awesome to be able to touch so many people's lives. It's again, I'm not looking for it, but it is flattering to me that I've been able to make a dent in things where anybody would care who I am. So it's always nice.
For sure.
And I'm still a fan of music. I'll still wait outside of shows for autographs. I just ordered a signed poster last night off of eBay. So I get it, and like I said, I'm still a fan, and I'm no different than anybody else. So if I made a difference in your life, or you appreciate some things that we did, that's awesome to hear, and I'll take it as it comes.
Awesome. Who was the band that you ordered the signed poster from?
Slayer.
Slayer. Nice. Nice. Who signed it? Like, was it an old one, the original lineup, or a recent one?
More recent one, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It was actually a tour poster that I don't think at the time that I had collected, but we were on the tour with them, and it had all the Lamb of God signatures on it, and then the Slayer signatures as well. I was like, man, I gotta get that on my wall somewhere.
Nice. That was from the final tour.
No, it was actually early on, and it was surprising to me to see it because I was having a hard time recollecting. But the poster, at least, looked like Lamb of God was headlining and Slayer was opening up, which to me,
Oh,
I was like, wait, when the hell did that happen? It must have been years ago, and it probably was. I don't, gosh, man, I'd have to look at the tour dates when I get the poster. But it was like when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, man! Like, because now having some time out of the band and like kind of beginning my second chapter and all that stuff. It's not that I absolutely look back on it with I loved every minute of it, but I think I've lost the idea of how big we were, and how much of an impact that we had. Getting to a point where a band like Slayer would open up for us, is that to me right now that just seems absolutely ridiculous.
yeah.
At the time we were probably just kind of riding the wave and going with whatever came and not thinking about it too much. But that's insane. I was thinking about the other day, with all this stuff with Ozzy going on. I think it was in 2004 or maybe 2007 that
Ah,
we were main support to Ozzy on an Ozfest, which
yeah.
was the year prior it was Judas Priest, and just to have our name in those kind of the band that I was in, the band that I worked my ass off for, to have to see those things, looking back on it now, it's just unbelievable, from where we started and what we ever even thought was possible, to be in that position. So it's, yeah, if I see stuff like that, I'm always just like how did that happen? So that's why I ordered that poster.
It's definitely like something that can like trip your mind up when you think about that you're like on the same level as far as like the originators, or the legends that have all inspired us. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it was always a thrill for me to, to meet those people, to hang out with those people. Like when I got the call from Dave to be in Megadeth, that was insane. That was a full circle moment for me, that life-changing thing. But when you're in it, I don't think you're kind of it's exciting, and it's like, wow, this is amazing, but you're kind of on the ride already. And then when you step off and you look at it from, maybe third person or whatever, it's just unbelievable what we were able to do and what I was able to, contribute to the whole thing. It's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. And speaking of, we'll definitely come back to the good times of the past, but I want to touch something on what's going on now. And you mentioned the second chapter. You got Firstborne, and you just released the debut album, Lucky, with it. So congrats on that. And
Thank you.
for people that might not be familiar with the band, it's definitely way different in style compared to what people know you for in Lamb of God and everything you've done. But there's definitely been more of like an accessible vibe to it, but it's still nice and punchy and heavy. So to talk about how the idea to form this band came together and how you decided on a style.
So we never actually like sat down and discussed like, well, we should maybe go in this direction. But the one thing that I did kind of bring to the table was that I did not want to do basically a copy of what I had been doing. I didn't feel like that was, it's just not smart for me to try to compete with, like we were just talking about. Like, that is unbelievable that the band that I worked for, that I was in, that I gave careers, a life to, achieved what it is. So now at 50 years old, it would be, I think it'd be stupid, a bit irresponsible for me to try to compete with that, to start over, to get, to, for me in my mind, to set the goal like, well, I could do it again, with the same style, or I could compete with that, which was absolutely the best thing I've ever done. I don't know. It's kind of self-defeating. It feels like I would be setting myself up for defeat if I were to do that. And what I wanted to do, and I'd been a big fan of the guitar player Myron for quite a long time. I'd been listening to his stuff while out on tour with Lamb of God for years, and it was there was just some. I loved his playing. I loved, his technique and all that stuff. But there was something about the vibe that just made me smile. It was just, there was something about it, and I didn't put my finger on it until we actually started talking about it. And when we were just talking as friends, like, what kind of stuff were you into as a kid, what kind of stuff are you into now, it really was the same kind of stuff that before Lamb of God, before all this stuff that I was listening to when I was a kid. The heavier side of bands like Rat and Guns N' Roses, and like when I was in high school, what heavy was, or good rock and roll, like even early Aerosmith and stuff like that. And so I had the opportunity to go back and like really reintroduce myself to, all this stuff that, when I was in high school, I was, rocking out to, trying to, grow my hair and find a Dokken shirt at the mall, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I love that stuff. And I still
Yeah.
listen to, I listen to it now. And I guess some people, because I was in Lamb of God, might consider that to be like an embarrassing, self-indulgent kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Of
that's what I grew up on, and
Right.
I love it. It makes me smile. It makes me feel good. And so when
course.
we had that discussion, it was like, well, I don't want to copy these bands, but why don't we keep that in mind as we go forward?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be this kind of crushing percussive thing. It could be something that's, I wouldn't say necessarily uplifting, but maybe a little happier than the kind of growly, you suck and your mom's gonna die, whatever, kind of thing. So we just wanted to have fun with it, and I found out that Garish, our singer, is into the same thing. You can go listen to his band, Garish and the Chronicles. It's him and his brother and a couple guys from India, and that's really what they're all about. And that's what they've been doing, for years now, and put out some really good stuff. So the three of us kind of have this connection in that we love that like nostalgic kind of stuff. And again, we didn't set out to um, kind of use that as a blueprint, but in that we all love it, let's see where that goes. And in the case of this record, we had done, I think we released like 20 some songs on YouTube and Spotify prior to going in and doing this record. And those were really thought out. And actually, most of that is actually heavier than what's on the record. But the record was, when we got together with Machine in Texas, we decided to not bring in any of the demos, and we had at least 100 demos of stuff that easily could have made the record, and we could have spent the time doing that. But we decided to, just because it was us in the same room for the very first time ever, just kind of breathe the same air and see what happens. And so we wrote the record in a week with no demo. We're not going to fix this, we're not going to use that, we're just like, wake up every morning and what riff do you got going on, Myron? And we just take it from there and build. Some of it, some of the songs worked, some of them didn't. I think we wrote about 20 songs in a week and then just narrowed it down to what the album was. And a lot of it, you definitely hear in the album, even more so than the songs that we did on YouTube, that influence. And it was not anything that anybody pushed while we were in the studio. It was like whatever we woke up that morning and felt like playing is probably a song on the record. So it was really, and it does, if you when you listen to it, it does definitely tie into what I was talking about earlier with our love for that kind of music.
Yeah, and you mentioned the guys being in India, but when you wrote the record, did you all get together in Texas and write in the same room, or was it virtual?
No, it was actually Garish, our singer. It was actually his very first time in the U.S. ever. So we brought him over. It was interesting because he had again never been to the U.S. and of course his first time is in Texas, right? Everything's huge. Everybody's got a cowboy hat on. Everybody's got a gun on their belt, and he was just like, "What the hell is going on here, man?" He'd never seen anything like it. And I don't know if you've been to India or know anything about India, but
Right.
it is a wildly crazy populated place. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
very little space for anything. And,
Right.
for him to see Texas, I think the first place we went because he lost his luggage, I think the first place we went was like a Costco just to get him some socks and maybe a pair of shorts or whatever. And he's looking around Costco like it was,
Wow.
Wizard of Oz. Like, what is this?
Wow.
So yeah, Texas was the very first time we'd ever been in the same room together. So yeah, everything prior to that was done virtually.
Excellent. And speaking of prior, during the early years of the band, the band formed or got its start maybe during the COVID era. You had James Lomenzo playing bass on you. So who's playing bass now?
Myron did play the bass on the album, and
Okay.
it was great having James. And the invitation is still there, and James never sent in a resignation of any kind whatsoever. But James and I have something in common that is in that we spent some time in Megadeth,
Megadeth.
and one of the I guess we'll call it interesting aspects about being in Megadeth is that it's not particularly celebrated to be in other projects,
Hmm.
which is maybe the reason I'm not in Megadeth now.
Right, right.
So I think and James never came to us and said, "Hey, I can't do it anymore." It was just like, I know where you're at. I know what's going on there. And, we'll see you on the other side. So I think in the future, you'll probably, if we ever do shows or whatever, you'll probably see James pop up again.
Yeah, that's cool. And speaking of, I want to touch on your time in Megadeth because I'm a longtime Megadeth fan as
Yep.
well. And you know, the Dystopia record that you did with them is one of my absolute favorites. And when I think back, it was like about a decade ago when you like first got together with the guys. When I look at it from that perspective, you mentioned many times that Megadeth was like the band that set you on this path and like your favorite band of
Yep.
all time. And when I think of like when how everything played out, you get the call from Dave and you go in, you make this record, and he gives you a little bit of freedom to like give some input because you mentioned the whole My Megadeth and all that. I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that record coming out, it was like a return to form for them after like a couple of records of like maybe going a little bit accessible. But and then for that record to win a Grammy, something that Dave himself has wanted for many years. And would you say that and then you got the tour with them as well, which is like even a bigger bonus. Would you say that that record is like one that really means the most to you, given everything that happened?
Oh, wow. Means the most.
Yeah,
Um, it's certainly a really important part of my journey.
yeah,
And it was a very special time because I was actually in Los Angeles recording the drums for Sturm and Drang, and I think it was for that album, yeah.
yeah,
And I got the call early in the morning in a hotel room from Dave asking, he had come to the same conclusion that you were referring to in that I don't think this softer side of things is going to work out for me. So what he asked me was, hey, Chris, I know we met a couple years ago, got along. People are telling me even better things about you now. Would you like to help me write a thrash record?
yeah,
And so right away I knew, like, okay, boom, because I would not want to. I'd be very thrilled to get in the room with him no matter what, but I definitely wouldn't be interested in writing like Super Collider 2.
yeah,
If you are calling me to do a thrash record and I can do what I do, or maybe not I understand there's like there's some boundaries in Megadeth. It's always going to be
Yeah,
Dave, and it's always it's not going to be this kind of pummeling rhythmic thing like Lamb of God. It's going to
yeah,
be kind of speed metal kind of thing.
absolutely.
So there's some guardrails there, but as long as we can explore all of that, that would be great. And he sent over some demos. We went back and forth, and then I moved to Nashville and was there for months. It was just Dave and I, and we basically wrote the entire thing.
Yeah,
Then brought the other guys in to kind of do their parts, and so that was, I mean, I remember when I was 14 years old on a skate ramp hearing them for the first time, and that really setting my sight or setting the point on the horizon of where I wanted to be. So
yeah,
that was wildly amazing for me. It didn't sit well with everybody, but
yeah,
it was an incredible opportunity
yeah,
for me to do that. So yes, that record was incredibly important because not only was I in the band, right, but I had a big hand in writing it and just hanging out with just Dave, for months in or outside of Nashville.
yeah,
Um, it was a thrill of mine. But to say it's interesting because Lamb of God was my band, so there were certain moments there that were incredibly special. I think if I were to pick, it's really hard for me to pick an album that would be the most important. But I think the one that I had with Lamb that I had maybe the most influence outside of, well, Palaces, I had a big influence on, but as far as like one of the records that did really well, I know I had a big push myself on the album Wrath,
oh
which
yeah,
yeah, I love that record, and everyone of course took part in it, but I
yeah,
was really pushing a direction after Sacrament where I thought Sacrament it wasn't soft, but I thought maybe it was a little overproduced, and I wanted to go a little harder, and I think we achieved that. But for me personally, as far as playing goes, I think probably the most important record that I ever did was the Protest the Hero record. That was by far the most difficult uh, situation that I had ever been in, and for multiple reasons. But it
yeah,
really pushed my abilities to the max, and I knew I couldn't come in there and do what I was doing in Lamb of God or any other project that I'd ever done before. This was a whole new level that I was not. I every time I get an opportunity like that or any other, my one of the things I always tell myself is just say yes. If you don't know how to do it, figure it out when you get there. Just always say yes.
yeah,
And that was a scary one because I was a fan of the band. I knew that they were, kind of super proggy, and that wasn't something that I was, I didn't have my chops up in that department. So it was a lot of work, and a lot of it was on my own. The guys, it was funny because they wrote the record in Guitar Pro on a
mhm,
computer, so they didn't know how to play it. So they didn't come to practice. So I was in their rehearsal room by myself, really, I think for about 2.5 months, about 10 hours a day with all these sheets all over the wall. I was diagramming songs. I would ask them, I was like, is this the chorus? Is this the solo? Like, what? Because it was just, if you listen to guitar profiles, it sounds like Atari.
yeah,
Like, I don't know where the chorus is. And they're like, put the chorus where you want it. So, I mean, I had free reign to do whatever I wanted, but I didn't understand necessarily even the song structures. And left alone, it was like, I don't know if this is good enough. Is this too crazy? I guess we'll figure it out when we get in the studio. And
yeah,
I pushed myself super hard on that record, and couldn't be more proud. And that won, I guess the Canadian version of a Grammy. So those
yeah.
pretty interesting. Wrath, Dystopia, and Volition, yeah, are the top three in my world.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, with a career that you've had and so many huge moments, it would be tough to like pick just one record. You also have like, Ashes of the Way, Sacrament, those became like signature albums for Lamb of God and some of the most biggest metal albums of the 2000s. So definitely something along those lines. And then Volition, that wins a Juno, and then Dystopia wins a Grammy. So you got so many like great things that happen. And when I think about the Megadeth thing, like I said, you're a fan, you get into the band, you tour with them, it puts them back on the map on the back return to form, and then wins a Grammy. Thinking from your perspective, I'm like, this is a movie, when you think about it. So.
Yeah, really. No, you're right. It was a thrill of a lifetime. I couldn't believe it. And I remember going. Lamb of God had been nominated for a Grammy multiple times. I'm not sure that happens anymore, but
Yeah.
when we would go, we went several times. I remember specifically two. It could have been three times that we actually went to the ceremony and didn't win, but I think almost every time that we did go, Megadeth had also been nominated. And just as a fan, when I was there, I remember thinking, I was like, I don't even want to win. I want Megadeth to win
Yeah,
because I was still, even though I was in a band that was probably in line as far as success goes at the time
yeah,
with them, I was just such a fan that I just really wanted them to win. I really wanted, especially Dave, to have that like
yeah,
hopefully that satisfaction moment where it's like finally like recognized.
yeah,
And and Lamb of God, we weren't really particularly fascinated with the idea of getting a Grammy. It was never on the bucket list of the band. It was furthest thing away
yeah.
than of what we had thought about when we started the band. I remember us playing like our first club shows, and Randy being like, this is fucked up. I'm punk rock. We don't play clubs. This is bullshit. So for us to be in like a category or whatever at the Grammys, the world watching, that was not something that we ever even
Yeah, yeah,
considered. So, I don't know. It's really cool to have one, and it's a good conversation starter. My parents were very proud, and
yeah,
so it's a nice thing to have. But and especially in that mine was with the band and I helped write with the band that kind of set um, my whole life journey
yeah,
in motion. It's pretty special. And you're right. Yeah, it is like a movie. I doubt anybody will make it, but
yeah.
I got to live it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Lamb of God being on Ozfest, and speaking of that, the world is still in a state of mourning after the passing of Ozzy last
Yep.
week, and they just had the funeral today.
Yep.
Um,
I was
I,
watching earlier.
yeah, I know. Ozzy, like I said, you've been on Ozfest. Like, what are some of your favorite Ozzy moments, or your favorite records, or interactions with him?
Oh wow. We did, he's not even on Ozfest, he wasn't like hanging out and catering or anything like that. So it was a pretty special moment if you got to meet him, and it was always kind of an invitation thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so we did. And he was exactly, there's no, he was not an actor whatsoever. What you
right.
saw was him.
Yep,
And so, and like I saw Geezer Butler say the other day, like he was the Prince of Comedy, to
yeah,
me, but not the Prince of Darkness. And
right.
that's what he was. He really was just trying to make everybody in the room laugh and feel special. And
Absolutely.
that was consistent every time that we did anything with him. He always made everybody on tour feel, maybe not personally, but I've been on tours that don't run very well and people aren't treated very well. Every tour that we did with him, everybody was treated well, and it was always a good time. So I don't have any particular, Ozzy and I didn't, break into a bank or anything like that. But every time I was around anything that he was a part of, it was always fun.
That's great to hear, man. Rest in peace, Ozzy. We'll miss you.
Indeed.
Thank you for everything. If you don't mind, I have a couple of friends who are big fans. So I go like Facebook fan questions, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So this one comes from my friend Alex Irwin, and he's asking, when was the last time you played saxophone, piano, or acoustic guitar?
Piano just the other day. I have one right here next to my drum kit, and my
Oh, nice.
my wife is pretty good. So she's actually I took lessons for like 8 years, but there's been a lot of Miller Lights between those lessons and now. So I don't remember much of it, but I think she's teaching me some stuff like that. Saxophone, I've retired.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. That was, it's a bit, I almost feel like it's embarrassing, but I was a kid and learning music. And acoustic guitar, I've got a couple guitars over here, maybe a month ago, just kind of strumming around.
nice. So you play just like with a pick, or do you play with fingers? What kind of style do you
Yeah,
play?
I'm not particularly good, and that's a fun story. I When I was a kid, that's all I wanted to do was be a guitar player. The reason I love Megadeth was because of guitar playing. The reason I love metal is because of the guitar playing. And I would practice to practice. The first band that I was in that put out a record, I was playing bass guitar. So I always wanted to be a guitar player. I just wasn't particularly good. It was, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't start drums until I was about 21, but seemed to have a knack for that. And so I think it's just the micro, versus the macro.
Right.
I've got one and not the other. So with the guitar, I definitely play with a pick. I don't know what the hell to do with my fingers on a guitar. So I'm not particularly good, but I can. you know, kind of maybe play a couple chords to my dogs and they don't complain.
There you go. That's always good.
Yeah.
So, and this question comes from my buddy Rob Foster Dadswell. He goes, during the rough period where you split with Lamb of God and going through some of the other like tough things that were going on in your life that you talked about, what was the thing that helped keep your head above water, like your guiding light?
Wow. Oh man. I might get uh kind of.
If it can be a little bit tough to talk about, it's okay.
No, it's not. I know for sure the one thing that honestly saved my life during that time is my wife.
Yeah,
And I mean that without any, I'm not trying to, you know, kind of blow her up or,
yeah, yeah.
have a, it's sincerely, I'm not sure that without her, I would be here today and doing what I'm doing. So, yeah, she helped me through all of that in every way possible, emotionally, physically. Like yeah, it was a bad time. And, I definitely spiraled in a bad direction. And yeah, she saved my ass. So I
That's
owe her a few.
that's amazing, man. Like our significant others, like they play a massive role in helping us out a lot of times. So
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, wildly thankful for that.
major kudos to her, man. So
Yep. Thanks. I'll let her know.
yeah. Just a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. I wanted to talk about drumming in particular because, like I said, both of us being drummers, we could geek out on this stuff, but um, you're known for like a certain style of drumming where you play open-handed, but also when it comes to doing fills, you're left-hand lead, but you play on a right-handed drum kit, which is something that's not like so uncommon these days. But every time I try and like learn some of the fills that you've done, you're always doing like left-hand lead, and that's my weak side. But it's something I try and practice a lot. So how did you gain or how did you develop that skill where it was like left-hand lead on the fills per se?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it kind of winds back to when I got my first drum kit.
Yeah,
And I should have probably set it up left-handed, but at the time, I don't want to call myself stupid, but every band that I had been in, every drum kit that I had seen was set up a certain way. So I just set it up that way. So the idea of uh, I never even considered doing it the other way. My left side, including my left foot, is much stronger than my right side, being left-handed,
yeah,
and it was just natural for me to start that way. In fact, your the challenge that you're having is the exact same challenge that I have. It's not
yep,
that my hand is weak though. It's that to get to the end of a fill, there's always a triplet or some kind of crossover so
yeah,
that I can end the thing. And that was my hurdle, and I didn't even realize it at the time. I was like, oh, that's just what they have to do. And then eventually I would hear from people like, oh, it's so interesting you do that. I was like, why is that interesting? And then I kind of figured it out. So
yeah,
I didn't practice to be able to do that. That was in my mind a handicap of what I wanted to do at
yeah,
the time. And it turned out to be kind of a signature move, I guess. But it was
yeah,
at the time I thought it was a problem.
yeah, for sure. And speaking of signature moves, obviously you have like many like signature moments within like Lamb of God and all that. But I have to also ask, and don't take this the wrong way, but what was going through your head when you came up with the fill for Ruin?
So we had I had this rhythmic drum beat, which is the end part of Ruin,
Yeah,
and the guys had the song, which was the beginning or the two-thirds of Ruin, and we didn't have an ending to it. We didn't have a way to get out of that chorus into a solo. There was just a roadblock there, and we were practicing 5 times a week for 6 hours a day, so there's some burnout there. It's like I'm not really feeling creative. And I was like, well, why don't we put this drum beat at the end of that? And everybody's like, well, first of all, it's a different tempo. It doesn't. How are you going to get into that? I was like, give me a minute, give me a week, and let me try to figure out some sort of transition fill. And I had no idea what it was going to be. And in my head, I was like, just if I could find a way to sound like you're purposefully falling down the stairs. That really was it. And I had no technique. I'd never taken a lesson. I knew what the tempo of the next part was going to be. So basically, I just kind of flailed around, and after a while, like this thing started. It didn't just happen. It wasn't like, oh, that's perfect. But the idea started to I started to hear it, and I couldn't do it originally. I couldn't get the threes under the twos,
Yeah.
and I was, at first it was just all toms, and then I, added in the splash or the bell, and it just slowly kind of built in my head. And then when I took it in, I was like, all right, I got it figured out. And we get to the end of the song, there's that clean break, and I do the thing, and nobody starts because they're like, what the fuck was that? Like, where are
Right.
we supposed to start? And it's like, how do I count that? I remember Mark saying specifically, like, where's the one, where's the four, like, what's going on? And over a process, and I don't think anybody loved it at the time. I think they thought it was like really kind of messy.
Hmm.
But after a while, I would like nod my head while I was doing it, so they knew when to come in. And
Okay.
after a while, just everything kind of clicked up.
Yeah. I like how you describe the part where it sounds like falling down the stairs. Like I
Yeah,
was
pretty much.
chuckle.
Yep.
I love it. So, but yeah, definitely like one of my favorite moments from you. Like, and that's one of those films where like because I'm naturally right-handed and trying to do like left-hand lead is I'm getting better at it, but I still have like little moments where I flub. But I only just like there was a moment where I could do the fill, and then a time later where I couldn't, but then
Okay.
got back into it. So yeah, definitely. If I had to like put that on like a Mount Rushmore of your best fills, that would be like one of them for sure.
That's funny because it's like completely accidental, and to most
Yeah.
people, it just sounds like a train wreck.
Yeah, but I love it. I love it for sure, and so many other people do, man.
That's
Uh,
great.
I just got like one more question for you, then I'll let you go. And I just want to say once again, thank you so much for the time.
Sure.
In terms of playing live, I don't know about how you feel. Maybe I'm sure maybe full scale touring is on the back burner for you for now. But are you open to still doing like sporadic shows, maybe even small tours, or even clinic tours? Like, what are your thoughts and plans for you as far as playing live?
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that, like you said, it probably wouldn't be a full-time thing, but the guys we talked about in the band, like how much would we be willing to do it? Of course, the guitar player just had a baby, so it's not maybe right now, but we talked about between 3 and 4 months a year of doing it, which to a lot of bands is kind of full-time. So yes, I would absolutely love the opportunity to take this on the road, and we have been talking to again, our singer's from India, and he's got a pretty big presence there. And I've done clinic tours there where just a clinic tour itself will sometimes draw like 2,500 people.
Yeah,
So I think we, just to maybe work things out and work things up, do a tour of India. We've been talking about India, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, maybe Australia. Just kind of start over there, see how it goes, and then bring it back to the U.S. and see what we can do.
excellent. And definitely, if that all comes to fruition, if you do a U.S. tour, hopefully you can also maybe bring it up here to Canada sometime.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I mean, I've never had a bad experience other than getting in
Right.
playing shows in Canada. So
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, for
Love
sure. Like, I still remember like the first time I saw you, with Lamb of God, you were on tour with Metallica at the time,
Oh
and
yeah,
definitely, on the Death Magnetic tour, and that was definitely like a really special moment for me, seeing like two of my all-time favorite bands. So definitely hope, and like I said, I've seen you with Lamb of God headlining a bunch of times. I saw you on the final Slayer tour, touring with Killswitch and Testament, like and COC, tons of great times.
yeah,
So.
that's awesome, man. Thank you. I actually remember those shows in Canada with Metallica. They were freaking massive, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was a really good time. It was difficult, to get over,
yeah,
as I say, in the wrestling business on
yeah,
those shows because of just the setup and all that stuff. But
for sure.
it was that's a once in a lifetime thing. We loved it.
Definitely. Well, Chris, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for spending the time to chat with me. Like for a longtime fan, and I wish you all the best going forward. And hopefully, we'll get to see you up here sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thank you, man. All
All
the
right.
best, and I'll see you.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Take it easy.
take it.
For you